Hi, tarot group audience. I just finished doing a really long, it was only like 20 minutes actually. I just finished doing a 20-minute video about current recaps of the energies that I've been noticing this week, and the similarities and different collectives and different dualities that are existing right now. Well, always exist, but we're noticing them right now. And so I did a whole video on that, and I think I'll put that in the comments right after this, because I don't know, I felt like I have friends on here who have been talking in those terms and understand a lot of the things I talk about in there, and so I think it went a little bit deeper for those of you that resonate with that, but I didn't want to overwhelm anybody with throwing way too much at y'all all at once if it wasn't your thing. So go ahead and look at that if you want. I think it's informative, and been feeling like a little detective over here doing my tarot and listening to other readings and meditating and things like that. So that's where I put it all in that video. Check it out. But for now, I'm gonna get back to this tarot reading that I set up for you all a real long time ago. That's the thing I'm using can you see the stand? That's where I put this to talk to you. But yeah, got a nice reading under there. Got some themes, figuring some stuff out. Okay, put this back. This is so likely to get fall. Okay, hi, here we are again. I can't actually, this is right on top of the main theme card, so I'm just going to talk about it without holding it. I'm trying to think if I want to connect it to last week's main theme card, because it's sitting right over there. Here. Okay. So just last week, we were starting a spiritual journey and an adventure following great catastrophe, or in the face of tragedy. But then we talked a lot about a screen. This is the 9 of Swords, and the pain that separates us from feeling our inner calling and our connection to love and our self-worth because of these stories and these worries and the illusion of fear. So that was the theme last week. And this is kind of building on it, because I pulled a fairy tale card. I posted about it yesterday, which was 4 of something. 4 crystals, I think, which is a 4 of Pentacles in the normal deck. The Rider-Waite deck, whatever it's called. So that card connected to this one makes sense, because this is going to be a lot about the frameworks of thinking about our framework on this journey, and this reflecting on the illusions and our thoughts, and this working with this inner torment. There's like a theme of mental work here, and Brother Wind is the central theme in this week. So I bet we are still working on our shadow work, because that is a lifelong journey. And a lot of what I brought up in last week's reading, I think, really worked for experiencing that particular week, and it actually made that week a lot more profound for me. But it was also a bird's eye view of a much longer journey. You know, you don't just go from 9 of Swords to the Hierophant, and eventually connecting with your inner love. That's a really, sometimes it's just a little cleanup and gets you closer, but the actual work itself is a big journey. So that we rolled through those themes last week. They were definitely apparent, but I feel as I do this that's going to be I'm going to try to keep connecting these things, because that energy is still very present, especially since there's so many different of you guys doing different things, and choosing to respond or not respond to the work, and things like that. So some of you might be moving along, some of you might be still working with those themes, So the mental side of what's happening this week, I got Brother Wind. Not the mental side, but it's a main theme, and it involves our mental realm. And so it's feeling really this card's about, it's a little different, it's for this deck, feeling really caught up in our thoughts, and having a lot of new ideas and a lot of directions we can go into, and really flying from these highs, and these lows, and like this high inspired moment and then this sorrowful low, and like, oh, I jumped in on this idea and I really thought it was great and told all my friends, and now that's not really what I want to do. Maybe I'm going to go over here. So that I did a reading with this card a while back, and it's about acknowledging that the flightiness of the mental state, and choosing to kind of sit more in meditation or go deeper with yourself, because the thoughts you're having now they resonate with your truth, but your truth could be so much deeper. So if you can go internally, work with your inner self and your inner thoughts, and then the ideas you're bouncing from will kind of be a greater reflection of who you are, and then you'll find the thing that you can kind of commit to more. And so yeah, it's interesting. It's this, so all those lessons about the mental work of trying to stabilize our ideas, and working with our intelligence and our logic and our creative mental energy, but anchoring that down into the Four of Crystals. So the framework to which we're gonna like hold that, and finding kind of an anchor to go with our sails, I guess, because yeah, I really like that. It's like we're finding an anchor for our ships, and well, we're feeling all this wind up in our sails, like all the directions we're being pushed, or like kind of maybe we're even lost at sea. So that was a really cool main theme, and makes makes a lot of sense with how you could be progressing with these energies right now. And yeah, okay, it's hard to explain. I want to get back into talking about the framework for a second, though, because the anchor, like what defines our anchor, we might be anchored in things that are no longer serving us, and it's really asking us to look at the framework of our lives, and where did that framework come from? Do we still agree with that framework? What values and responsibilities are we accepting as our own? Are they our own? So it's like doing the mental work to go deeper within ourselves, get our ideas and our thoughts about things to align with a greater truth within ourselves, and then establishing a framework for our realities that is a much greater reflection of us, and not just the world we live in or the things we've been told we are. So I took that main theme. I mean, like I said, this happened last week, where that's really the lesson, but we'll go in a little bit deeper. So to clarify that energy, I will just grab these. Oh no, I dropped it. So with that in mind, it's really okay. I'll just say them real quick. I got the Four of Cups, the Ten of Cups, the Three of Wands, and the Knight of Wands. I always think of my friend Chelsea Matthias whenever I read the card names out loud, because I feel like whenever they're around, they're always like, what is that card? Because they know how to read them too. Hi, CJ. Anyway, so this is saying, so yeah, this happened in a couple of the other readings too. It's really pulling it all together. One sec. Okay. I'll start with like, it's a time of contemplation, and like I said, meditation, going within. There's another card in this spread that talks about meditation. There's also like an offering here. The dude's just chilling, and he's actually kind of like contemplating all this stuff in front of him. He might not notice that that this is here for him. I saw a funny meme for this once that would like just at the top, like, dude, take the fucking cup already. And I always think of that when I see this. So you're sitting in that contemplated, meditative energy, and realizing that even though you might be stuck, this time it does have an offering of maybe a path to deeper fulfillment, or something that could bring you joy. It's there. You might not be seeing it while you're in this like waiting period, but also a card that reflects a time of meditation and inner listening. So that's great. And then these three are speaking to something, let's see, a couple different things here. There's definitely this push towards following our passions, and if you know, like I said, not everyone's gonna be feeling all the different currents and of energy going right now, but there is a lot of you in this collective that are feeling called to different passions, and like your art and your music, or being a good substitute teacher for your kids at home, you know. So there is like there's a lot of time to think about what we want to manifest when the world gets to start again, you know, if we're not too caught in the sorrow of it all to be sitting in that, which is fine if you are. And visions of like your own happiness and inner fulfillment, and what your idea of happiness is and what would bring you joy, and being a little more visionary with that, and bringing more passion to that. Like really, like I said, it's a lot of this is about thinking about what defines the framework of your life, and where that's coming from and what you're putting into it. So you want the framework of your life and the things, the values that you're holding to reflect your quest for your passion, the things that truly bring you fulfillment, and you know, a grander vision for your life, whether it's yours or not, and the opportunity to really tap into that more and work with it is here. You know, this is a time where you should, if you can, be thinking about what your true framework is, and not what society, because like I said, society is going through some major restructuring. I think I mentioned that in the other video, and it really is a time to contemplate systems and if they serve us, and that includes the systems and things we're socially a part of that make us define ourselves and why. So the shadow work around this theme of like might be making it more difficult to really connect with this kind of truth of what we want to build our lives around. Let's see, there's a couple things. There is, I think people you're thinking about it mentally too much. If you know, on the shadow work side of this, if you're getting, this is where you might be getting caught up, a lot of thinking how it should be or how you should be, or you're trying to bring a lot of logic into the equation. And this is actually like encouraging to work through this, to bring your emotions out more, bring them to the table for yourself in your conversations, sharing your feelings. Because that's blocked up a lot for a lot of people right now still, and like life will just do that to you. But if you can get that flowing a little bit, just like, you know, telling people why you're grateful for them, or remembering expressing, you know, a feeling that you've been having for a while or something, that's good work. You can even do that in your creative pursuits, because we're just hanging on to it a little too tight right now. Emotions are a little, you know, speaking our emotional truths and acting on our emotional truths, it's just caught up. It's a little congested. So working on that flow will help release some of what's held up, which will help you start working on figuring out your own framework, which is ultimately the main theme I keep trying to pull you back to, because there's a lot going on here. Keep singing all my words. Okay. So another thing, oh man, I knew this earlier. I'm gonna come back to that one. Shadow work. We're still being students of this new world. Like we all just got stabbed in the backs by reality, like real freaking hard. And we continue to be stabbed in the back by reality. Every time we like turn on the TV or get bad news or have to step into a hospital for jobs, or every time like we're worried we're traumatizing our children, like we're still accepting this new reality. And so we're still students of it. And we're still working on the pain of it and the despair. So some of the shadow work of like being who we're meant to be right now and building the frameworks of our definitions and the things that define us and our truth. Some of the block there is that we're still just reconciling with the new world and who we should be in that new world. And let's see, another part of the shadow work around this is that a lot of our frameworks are coming from our families. They're coming from expectations that served our parents or other generations that might not serve us anymore, but we still have them incredibly internalized into our stories. So doing some framework on like going back and looking at our social conditioning and looking at our ancestral conditioning, and just really trying, just, I don't know, just think about how all this outside conditioning is affecting you, has affected how we perceive things, how the media has gotten into the way we perceive ourselves. I'm trying to say commercialism has really, we're being sold stuff. We were sold stuff our whole childhoods, like us millennials had like some really crazy over sexualized teenage stuff in the 90s media, in the early 2000s, traditional roles of mother and father and on like TV shows, maybe, systems that worked for our ancestors in the Great Depression of hard work and, not allowing emotional softness. There's all kinds of things to like look at on our social conditioning, and how it's affecting us, and how it's not always actually a reflection of our truth. And it might be a reflection of someone we admire as truth. And so then I've been learning this lately, you can admire and love somebody else for how they operate around that value, but it doesn't have to be your value. So really the framework is about, like I said, our responsibilities, our values, the way we self-define ourselves, and that kind of thing. So if you've never really stopped to consciously work with that energy, then you're still working with the preset data, we are customizable. So doing, just like, things that we think, what our families have taught us means winning. Like, what does our family say victory is? What does our society say victory is? And shifting from that and thinking more about what our inner truth says is a personal victory. Because honestly, like, we get so caught up on like what we're supposed to be and what all these, like, the set blueprints of having a human experience, and we judge ourselves on our ability to connect, like to do those blueprints properly, instead of taking the time to go within, get curious, think about what fulfills us, follow our passions, and then ultimately create our own blueprint, which might be a completely different story. You might not get married till you're 50, but you had a big brother, big sister situation with like some little kid that you saw at lunch every week, and he was like a son to you. Open. We need to. A lot of us need to have a restructuring of like what paths could make us happy, and and make peace with not having it the way we thought we would have it. Because we're really trying to, like I said, we're trying to make a framework and figure out the blueprint for who you are and what ideas we are individually, and like work on what it takes to get that, open that channel. I've been thinking a lot lately, it's like when we're born, and we don't even, like, someone asks us when we're 4 what your favorite color is, we don't even know what the preset favorite color is, guys. Like, you have to sit there and be like, I guess I like this color. I've noticed that this human body I'm in seems to really want to collect things of that color, We are still discovering ourselves. We are still figuring out, like, what we could be here to do, or what we want to do, and getting so caught up on the patterns of like what we're supposed to do and what the people we look up to are doing is like really, squishing this path to emotional fulfillment, like deeper fulfillment, fulfillment that goes far beyond the feeling of like you did something right, or like you did what you were supposed to do. Like that's a good victory, because that takes work too, but like, man, the fulfillment of who you were meant to be, like that's like a whole nother thing. That's what this shit's all about right here. So anyway, so that's like the advice around that, this work, this reframing who we are and what matters to us and what path we're going to go on, and how to balance out all that lot of energy of different ideas into conversation and peace with our inner truth. There's a couple advice cards for that. So let's see. There's this is just like, this is my meditation card. This card shows up and says meditate to me all the time. But it doesn't have to mean actual meditation. I'm not even listening to the recommendations to meditate as much as I should be. But letting yourself go into this state of peace, finding relaxation. A lot of the readings I did last week kept coming with a lot of body tension. So I kept telling people to take bubble baths. So do really listen to your body, relax your body. You're not going to be able to really tap into any of the stuff that's trying to get these, this, all the higher truth that I've been talking about. It's easiest to access when you're really slowing down, taking care of yourself, and getting into a meditative flow, even if that's what happens when you do the dishes. You don't have to sit around like you're in a Zen temple. So then the star. Other advice is there. This is a big one, I guess. I don't know, guys. I think I'm just clumsy. I'm putting you guys back up. Is it upside down now? Okay. Going with the flow. Okay, it's not balancing. All right, let there be a new beginning. That's what this card is trying to say. And it was a big theme last week, right? Because we were trying to that was themes of mankind being redeemable. We're more than our mistakes, so you can clear out, it's like the thing I like to say about last week's reading, just as a general teaching, is that the greatest thing sin can do to us is convince us that sin can separate us from love. And you don't have to define sin in a Christian term. It can just be doing the things we feel like we shouldn't do that make us feel unworthy and make us feel like we're bad people or we're not good enough. All of that. It's like, if we're allowing that to convince us that we are no longer worthy of universal love, which in its title is supposed to be love no matter what, and we still feel like we're the exception, we're so bad that for some reason we're not worthy of that. That's the power. That's giving evil and sin and the dark side of the justice system, that's giving that power. And that doesn't need, it doesn't need to separate you. We'll have our own stories, and we will separate ourselves from it, and I struggle with that all the time. But ultimately, you are allowed to be made brand new. You are allowed to forgive yourself, and you should. And anything that makes you feel like you're less worthy of love is an illusion, and that illusion might be reflected by the media or our standards, because universal love is not a reflected value in our current society, but it could be. Anyways, so last week's shadow work, talking about allowing yourself to have a new beginning, looking at the things that separate you from love in your life and a connection to something higher. And so it's coming up again as advice in this reading is to let yourself have an optimistic new start. Really let yourself start let things go. Let yourself, not just in the shadow work, but also when it comes to this framework, and most especially, honestly, because that's the reading this is in, letting yourself have a new beginning with how you define your reality, what matters to you, what will be an important thing that you follow coming out of this time. Let there be a restart. I had a really good restart once where I had another intuitive tell me that it was time to put a period on the last sentence and start with a new capital letter. So do that. That's what this card is saying. And the Empress. I talked about this a little bit in the energy report video, but if you're having conflict, if you're experiencing some kind of internal conflict, there's a good chance that some of that might be coming from your inner I don't masculine or active or yang in it, in yin and yang energy, that might be resisting the help of your receptive, passive, more feminine inner qualities, the yin energy. So allowing yourself to really tap into this Empress energy and really lavish in the softness, or being gentle with yourself, or allowing yourself space to really feel and connect and ground. For everybody, that's a really good good thing to be doing right now. So meditative work, allowing a new beginning, tapping into your self-nurturer, and really picking up the pieces still from what's going on, accepting the current reality, picking up, working with the painful thoughts that are still existing because of like your external reality, dealing with any picking up the piece, like inner feelings about your standards with yourself, that you should be like meeting the thoughts that are kind of just causing conflict, picking up after the battle, you know, moving past that, and just like I feel it feels so connected to this card of just the current state of having, like I said, the world stabbing us in the back, and continuing to reconcile with that, is really what this is saying to me. It always happens after I do one of these readings. I like think about it later in the shower, and I was like, oh, I was right, but that card was actually saying this way more than it was saying that. So, you know, that's what's coming up today is like definitely, I know it's all the current energies. I'm just anticipating I'm going to have that happen again and be like, damn, I forgot this important thing. So if that happens, just keep an eye out in comments. But yeah, ultimately, we are reflecting on the framework of our lives, the values and the systems that we operate within, internally, and the goals and visions and expectations we set for ourselves. And we are being invited to reconsider the visions of our own passion and quest towards inner fulfillment. Open our minds to the idea that the framework might be way different than anything we thought. That it will be a reflection of a truer part of ourselves if we take the time to go in deeper within ourselves, to know ourselves more, and to break free of some of the expectations that have been shaping us, that just they don't vibe because we find ourselves kind of not liking ourselves for not being able to meet them, you know. So reshaping how we define what we should or could be, looking at our ancestral and societal patterns around it, getting really used to being here in this new space. Let's see, finding balance, bringing in a lot of, I didn't talk about this earlier, maybe this is going to be a funny thing that I'll probably figure out later, oh yeah, surrendering to this higher, to maybe a higher plan for you, and bringing in, it's just, yeah, I don't know, man, I'm gonna talk about this in the comments. I should, okay, 1 second. We are gonna solve a mystery. My recap got interrupted by realizing I didn't read something. So what was this? This was shadow work. Oh, okay. Some of that was just about, this is it's just getting funny now. Okay. I actually did talk about this card a lot. I just didn't realize it connected in this way. This is about the systems, like I said, how we define ourselves through traditions and different belief systems and you know, structural organizations, and the structures in our lives that we define ourselves through. Yeah. So, oh man, I don't even know where I was in the recap anymore. But yeah, get real cozy in the current reality, get meditative, allow a new start, think about your feelings, express your feelings in art or talking to loved ones. Consider what you have thought was victory and decide that you might have your own special kind of victory that doesn't look like anybody else's. And the only way to go on that quest towards your passions is to go deep within yourself and, yeah, start over, nurture yourselves, think about your frameworks. I encourage you all to look at the energy report I did already, because I talked about a lot of the commonalities that were coming up in your personal readings. These readings are going to be really broad and have more of these overarching themes, but I've really been enjoying doing the personal ones. So feel free to do that. Feel free to come and go out of this group, invite people who might like it, and let me know if there's anything in particular that you want to look into more, because you probably won't be the only one who wants that, and then I can incorporate it. So thanks for listening, friends and family. This has been a sing-songy tarot time. Yeah, all right. I will do timestamps this time and look at the other video, and I think I told you all the stuff. All right. I love you and miss you, those of you that I know, and thank you for being here to everybody. Yeah, this has been this week. Bye.